Hey everybody, this is Julie Van Orden, the author of Well with God. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should listen to the Time to Shine podcast with my really fabulous friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and welcome to episode 177 with my really good friend, Julie Van Orden. She is the author of Well with God. Fantastic read. I do have a fantastic giveaway, not only for her book, but for her journal. She really breaks down the pillars of your life and how you can infuse God in them to give you a better well-being. I'm a man of faith. I stand by that, and I just love the conversation with Julie. It doesn't go really super religious. We dive into Julie's background. We dive into everything about Julie and how she came about to wanting to help people level up. So without further ado, I'm going to ask you to sit back, break out your notebooks, take some awesome notes, because I have like 3 pages full after our discussion. So here comes my really good friend, Julie Van Orden, the author of Well with God. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson. If you're looking to understand how your deepest desires and special gifts represents God's roadmap to achieving your personal well-being, learn how your financial management and communication skills may be the key to achieving a high level of mental wellness, find out how your spiritual interests and hobbies are just as important to your well-being as your fitness and nutrition, then you need to be hooked up with my really good friend, a fellow woman of faith, Julie Van Orden, who, if you're watching on anything, wrote this book, Well with God. It is fantastic. Everybody out there knows that follows me and listens that I'm a 5-page a day person, and it's with about 5 or 6 different books going at the same time. But this is after my learning journal, my journaling in the morning, my word with God. This is the first book that I read the 5 pages out of, and every single day I pick up knowledge nuggets that just blows my mind. And it's written by my really good friend, Julie Van Orden, who's a trained communication skills facilitator and trained domestic mediator. She has taught hundreds of communication skills training sessions and has mediated hundreds of child custody agreements, which that's got to be just crazy in itself, in the state of Maryland. She has been a keynote speaker, session leader, and guest panelist for multitudes of state, local, and company-wide education sessions. Julie co-hosted a weekly cable television show for parenting called Quality Time while living in the Florida Keys with her career military and fellow shipmate of mine, husband Dan. So, Julie, please come on to the Time to Shine Today Varsity Squad. Introduce yourself, but first, what's your favorite color and why?
Okay, I love color, but I'm actually very drawn to the simplicity of black and white together.
Really?
Yeah, because you can pop it with a vibrant color for energy.
Yeah.
And then you can also use like muted tones like grays or tans, and it's very elegant and soothing. So that's kind of my go-to.
I love that. And so let's get to your origin. So you were a military wife then while Dan served. Okay. So you know about time apart and raising the family and keeping that all together. You were definitely a domestic engineer during that time. Well, let's get to the origins of Julie and then what led you in kind of the mediator and being an author and a speaker.
Okay, so, I actually drank the wellness Kool-Aid when I was in high school. And I really kind of turned myself around from a little bit of a juvenile delinquent to recognizing that my choices had a lot to do with my outcomes. And I went to school to be in announcing and performing because I love to talk. And I thought that's what you do. You go be a broadcaster. And, I really had some dark times in college, and I dropped out and had to really redefine myself and find myself, and things were going well at college. You can have everything looking good on the outside, but the inside, if you're not really walking, I think your path, it can be very unbalanced, unsettling. And that's what happened for me. So when I went back, I changed my major to health science, ended up getting a health science degree and a master's in health administration. And I never had a book on my radar until 2018. And I was in a meditation session. Actually, I am a faith-driven woman and faith-based.
Yeah.
And I was literally praying about a situation at work with somebody that just like from the minute I stepped foot in the company just could not like me. And I'm an address things with people kind of person.
Sure.
And I couldn't even go there. And I was literally praying for her, because you're supposed to pray for people.
Sure, absolutely.
Even though they may not have felt like they earned it, but they've all earned it. So I was praying for her, and God laid this book on me, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's time. So
it's an amazing book. I'm thinking I'm at page 70, 75, because again, I have this kind of exercise where I read 5 pages a day, and it kind of keeps my mind open to different things. And all of them are like things that help me expound and level up. And I just noticed that, Squad, while you're listening, she's got, different pillars, if you will, physical, occupational, mental, intellectual, financial, environmental, and social. And I have the same kind of teaching with my clients, that it's almost like a jazz band, if you will, meaning like if one of these is out of tune, it doesn't sound so great. But what Julie does is she brings it all back to God. I love her footnotes throughout the book, Squad, that have actual Bible verses. But I think you did a brilliant thing. I don't know if you did this on purpose, but when she put the Bible verses in, she didn't actually say the Bible verse until the footnote at the back of the chapter, because people like me, I'm going to read the Bible verse and then go cross-reference it to the Bible. What was nice is I wait till the end of the chapter and then go cross-reference all the verses where she put it in there. And it was just fantastic. It's a fantastic read. There will be a giveaway at the end of this.
Thank you.
Where Julie's going to send a signed copy out to you on Time to Shine Today's Dime. But okay, so you were kind of a juvenile delinquent, you said, in a sense, and probably not too bad, but you had challenges that all kids have. Was God and faith involved in your life then, or was it shoved down your throat as a kid and you kind of walked away from that and came back to God? Or what's your story there?
No, I mean, I wasn't raised in a family that went to church. My dad was kind of a disgruntled, I'm not going to even say the religion, but he was disgruntled. My mother was from a kind of an off the cuff, an unconventional. And so we didn't really go to church. We didn't do any of that.
Okay.
But you know what? I realized so I came to God as because I was always seeking. And what's that come from? I learned that was the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
So when I was a juvenile delinquent, I did not have God. I was not thinking about God, but I always thought I had street smarts.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I matured, I started thinking, oh, that's my intuition, or that's my women's intuition, or that's my sixth sense.
Right.
But when I started to really develop a relationship with God, I realized that's God nudging me, protecting me, telling me which path to go down.
Sure.
And then when I got in lockstep with, I'm not always, because I like to lead, I'm a go-getter, so I want to go with what Julie wants.
Sure.
But when I just step back and I get centered and I say, I want this, but if it's not your will, lead me.
Sure.
Yeah. And I love that I've heard your shows, of course. I've listened to your shows. And so I hear so much of what you do that really, I can see why it would resonate with you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
it's mind,
that.
body, spirit, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah. There's so many different pillars. Absolutely. So when it comes to servant leadership and whatnot, what do you think makes a great leader?
You know what? I heard this. This literally I saw on LinkedIn from my daughter. Our daughter is 30. Mm-hmm. She said, lead from among. I loved that. And I will tell you, I have carried around for many, many years, and I don't have it right now in my briefcase, but General Colin Powell's 18 Points of Leadership. And one of my favorite parts of that was a good leader has the ability to anticipate. And so I'm always trying to think a step ahead of what could this do? If I do this, what's going to be the outcome? It helps me regulate my mouth and my actions. And
sure.
I really recommend it to other people too.
Absolutely. I in the same way, but I had to really train myself to, when you have the ability to anticipate, you want to actually talk without listening. That was my weakness with it, to where I live the same way, but I actually am now in the past 5 or 6 years really learning to tune people in instead of wanting to come back with what do I want to say. And I love that you said lead from among. That's beautiful. So when you're working with, do you work with people one-on-one, or
I do everything. I work one-on-one and in groups and in large groups. I did a group of about 30 2 nights ago.
Oh, wow. So that's fantastic. So is there any secret sauce that you use, Julie, that, if you don't mind sharing, that you have to maybe help them find their blind spots when they're stuck with something?
I think that we all have to move from our head to our heart when we're feeling stuck. And sometimes when we're headstrong, or even when we don't know what to do, sometimes it's not the straight shot, because I believe God has it all woven into us. And if we'll sit with him and look for the opportunities that he presents, and that's when he wants us to step through. But so many times I know that I want to drive the bus. I want to drive it all the time. I want to drive the bus. But when I sat back, and I've been successful driving the bus,
right,
but I haven't been fulfilled. And that's what wellness is. It's fulfillment and contentment. I can have it all, right? But not feel like I have it all, and feel like what's missing. And sometimes it's a 90-degree turn.
I love it. I love that transparency. So which one of these 7, the focusing on wellness, of the 7, which one do you struggle with the most?
Well,
Mrs. High Cholesterol. I'm kidding.
I do have high cholesterol, and I have the fitness going on. We're genetic. The one that I struggle the most with, I know the one that is really my entree into so many of the other ones is social well-being.
Okay.
And I don't really struggle with it, but because we moved around a lot as a military family, I did have to constantly find that new group. And I have found that when my social wellness is struggling, I love my favorite fast food. I stopped exercising as much. I start feeling unsettled at work. I have to have a core group, and it's not like I'm always texting and talking. I just have to feel like I belong to a tribe. Yes. And it might be because of that nomad thing of moving around, being a military. And I wasn't just a military wife. I mean, before that, my dad was in construction, and it was a job that he moved around a lot. Wow. So we had never lived anywhere like more than 7 years, and 7 was a long stretch.
Wow.
And so I think it's that nomadic thing that makes, and I'm an extrovert. So quarantine has caused me some unsettling and a lot of introspection. And I think I've done really well with it, but I have not gotten my sea legs, so to speak.
Right. But they're coming though, and you've adapted what, everyone's saying shift and pivot. I call it shivot. Everyone's kind of doing that during these times. And
that's almost profanity.
It's close. Shivot, right? It's close.
I love it.
Was your family very supportive of you writing the book?
Yeah, it's interesting. My mother's passed away. My dad has actually authored a book before, and he is very supportive always, and always wants the best for us. But I will say that he didn't seem as receptive to it at first. And I think he had to get past the part that I told some very personal stories in there. And I think as a father, he takes ownership for stuff that he shouldn't.
Right.
And I was very delicate with it. And I even talked to him about it, but I think that he had to read it a second time. And then he's like, this is going to help a lot of people. But he was really reading, I don't tell just my personal stories, as you know, I tell other people's
it was
stories.
Excellent. It goes from person to person back to you.
Professional stories.
Yes. And you own it, which is
Thank
fantastic.
You.
So if I'm out networking and, pressing some flesh, which here in South Florida, we're able to do no matter what you see on the media, but we're out, we do hold networking events, and, I'm shutting my mouth and opening my ears, and someone's asking me how would I know, Julie, if they're a good prospect, contact, or referral for you?
I think that, that's a really hard question, Scott, but I think that it doesn't really matter. I can't even say that there's somebody who knows God, because I didn't know God growing up, and I was open and receptive. I think that if they are just I don't know, if they don't mind speaking with somebody who has like lays it all out. I can also give the hard information,
Okay.
but if they want to feel inspired and they want to find that inner best self, and they just keep looking and haven't gotten there, I think I would be a great person for them to speak to, because I think one of the goals, I mean, one of the mistakes that a lot of people do is they start with the tools and the outcome. Okay, this is my goal, and these are the tools to get there. But that may be your goal. Like, that story I said of Alexis, where she, in the book, she was always comfortable with her weight, but it was skydiving and not being able to get, down to 250 pounds, which was the weight restriction. It was really that her social network is what got her to her fitness.
Love it.
So we go straight to fitness stuff. We think always first about the tools for finances. Oh, let's open up a bank account, invest in a 401k. But sometimes our financial wellness or our physical wellness is found in another one of the dimensions, our avenue. So we've got to stop. They need to be untraditional and be open to anything.
Wow.
Exploring any part of their life.
I love it. I love it. And then they want to start thinking, from their heart a little bit as well, and start pulling it up into their head. So what keeps you up at night, Julie?
God.
Yeah.
I talk so much, and I'm thinking all the time. When my head hits the pillow, I'm that person that goes to sleep immediately, but like 4 or 5 hours later, boom.
You said you're at the 5-hour mark, just like I am.
I am. And he will lay something on my heart, I don't know if it's dreams or what, but sometimes when I wake up, I'm like, okay, now I get it. And he's laid stuff on my heart. So I think he wakes me up to say, okay, this is the direction. Sure. I know that sounds so weird, but it's the truth.
I'm 100%. I mean, my squad knows it, and I've had people tune out from me, which is fine, but I'm a man of faith. And I was told by my mentor at my church here at Christ Fellowship is that, silence is God's voice. Like, people are afraid to sit in silence and listen to it. And like you said, but silence is God's voice talking to you. And that's what I ask people. I mean, if you're a meditator and you're not a person of faith, that's still fine. Still listen to the silence, because there's voices. To me, it's God, and again, I don't disrespect anybody else's beliefs, but to me, it's God. And that he's talking to me during those times of silence. And then all of a sudden it's kind of pulls into that intuition, and all of a sudden you start acting out. If you take action on, that's one thing I was going to ask you about, is there's a lot of talking to God in this book. Yeah. What is your, I don't know if you know who Andy Andrews is, but he's a Christian comedian. He wrote the book that changed my life. It's called The Traveler's Gift. Yeah. And it's the easiest way to say this. He really kind of brought to the surface that silence is God's voice, and that we need to be open and listening to it on a daily basis. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, he nudges us. A lot of people think people are afraid of what traditional religion has shared with them. Sure. And so I think that's why folks get a little turned off, but really all of those great things that are inside of your God. And so when you don't really embrace God in whatever your faith practice is, you're not embracing yourself. I truly believe that the silence, even though it's hard to still your mind, is the best place for me to meet God. I believe it's for others too. You've got to sit still with him and what impressions he puts on your heart.
Absolutely. And so you saw the movie Back to the Future. I bring this up in all my...
one of my favorite movies.
Okay, so let's go back in the DeLorean to the 22, 23-year-old Miss Julie. I don't know if it was Van Orden then, but let's go back to
Julie Jones.
Julie Jones. So let's go back to the J squared, the JJ. Let's go back to the 22-year-old Julie. What kind of knowledge nuggets, we call them knowledge nuggets here at Time to Shine today. What kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on Julie with what you've learned now?
Yeah. So high school was great. And when I came out of high school, and during that time period you're asking about, that was the time that was a biggest struggle for me, from around age 19 to about 22. And I would just say the knowledge nugget I would want her to know, and I really want your listeners to know, the squad, is it gets better. And whenever you are having those valleys, that is where your greatest successes are going to come. So never give up. Never give up on God, but don't give up on yourself, because that's where you're meeting him.
I love that.
Those valleys, oh my gosh, there's a scripture I love, and I probably would hose it right now if I tried to do it, but it's really consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds.
Love it.
Yes, because it is through the testing of your faith.
Sure.
That your resilience is built. And that's James, I think it's James 1, verse 2 and 3.
Yep.
1, yeah. I love that.
I mean, even in what everyone knows, Psalms 23, he says, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he doesn't say sit there and wail. He says, get moving. I believe that God is waiting on us. He's giving us what we have, and he's giving us the nudges, like you say. A lot of people, I'm waiting on God to give me an answer. Well, I think he's waiting on you to take action as well, and take action on that silence that you have. I love that you said that. So how do you want your dash remembered then, Julie? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date. How do you want Julie's dash remembered?
In between birth and death, I would really, there's a saying from Maya Angelou, it's not, people won't remember what you said, but they will remember how they felt.
Oh, yeah.
I would really like people to have felt inspired and in themselves, not by me in my life, but I would really love to be able to impart information or wisdom that people will feel so good about themselves that they'll just want to thrive and live and have joy and find it,
You're a living legacy. Come on, Julie. I mean,
I know that's a big haul, right?
It's okay to say, I'll say it for you. You are. I mean, I see you on your social, I'm so this book is just absolutely amazing.
You're so good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. But it's, people, you've got to have that go-to. You have to have that somebody or someone in your life that, kind of do life with, in a sense, lack of a better term. And how does Dan help you out with that?
Dan is like this. He is the steady of all our life, because I am the Energizer Bunny. I'm up, I'm down, I'm all over the place. Dan is a steady rock. I'm not kidding. You hear that all the time about, he's my rock. He truly is. That man he's really my inspiration. And I want to tell you, so many times, we've been together 40 years.
Wow.
We've been married, it'll be 35 years in February, but we were together for 5 years before we got married.
Wow.
And he has always people like him because he's not that type A person. He's just a steady rock. I literally, one time when we were in base housing in Whidbey Island, Washington, a prank caller called in the middle of the night. And all I heard is him pick up the phone, because, it was before cell phones. And he's like, no, right? Really? He goes, I don't think so. No, that's not, no. He goes, I know that you don't want to do this, but, calling people. And he went into this conversation for 10 minutes. And I go, what was that? He goes, it was a prank caller. And they were telling me what they were doing to themselves at that moment. And they apologized by the time they got off the phone with him, because he empathized with him. And he never runs out of empathy.
I love that.
And it's the most amazing person I have ever met. I am so I felt fortunate from the very beginning that I got him and that I got to keep him, because I don't want to say I'm a hard person to live with. I'm a lot of energy.
No,
I'm like this all the time.
He's like my Susan. She's that, and I'm like, so when I'm off the clock, I can just be me. And not to say I'm not me, but just letting the guard down. It took me a long time to find something to where I could just really let my guard down, and God provider, which is a fantastic. So, Julie, 3 things you can't live without. And let's leave out electronics. Yeah. And we already know God's number 1. Okay.
Salvation. I can't live without the salvation of Jesus.
Okay.
That Jesus sacrifice. I can't live without forgiveness, because I make a lot of mistakes, and I appreciate when people forgive me. And really the freedom to have faith. I do worry about freedom a lot.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So as we wind things down just a little bit here, Julie, I have my leveling up lightning round. Okay.
Okay.
You and I could talk an hour on each one of these questions, and we probably still keep going on every question, but you got 5 seconds. No explanations. Okay.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Ready to rock. So let's level up. What is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
From my Uncle Ben, who I hadn't met in, all right, 5 seconds. Always go the extra mile, from Uncle Ben Jones, passed away now.
Excellent. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I don't procrastinate, and I'm disciplined.
Love it.
I think they go hand in hand.
Love it. So not the good book, or not the book you're reading now, or the book you wrote. If I'm in my doldrums, just not feeling it, is there any kind of go-to book? Like mine's The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. He's a Christian comedian that I told you about. Is there any good book that you kind of would say, Fergie, here, read this?
I've got to tell you, my favorite thing is the 10th book of the New Testament, which is Ephesians, and I love the full armor of God. Yes. And I tell people all the time, put on your armor. And people have said that to me before, put on, get into your shoes of peace.
Love it.
Love it. I love it. Everything that I need is there. Yeah,
it is. Ephesians is fantastic. So what's your most commonly used emoji when you text?
I like the smile emoji with the little 2 pink rosy cheeks.
Love it.
I use it all the time.
Love it. So not the age you are now. Okay. I know you feel great. You look great. And if you're watching on YouTube, she's a beautiful woman. But if you could stay one age for the rest of your life, have the wisdom you do now, and continue to learn, what would it be? And don't lie.
I'd really like to be 35
Yes,
forever.
Thank you. When you said that you've been together 40 years, people, if you're watching this woman does not look anywhere near she could have been with someone. Because I'll tell you what, we said when we were 22, when she was 22, her name is still Julie Jones. Okay, so if you look at this woman, and the 35, I say 28 to 32, in between that age. Thank you for being honest. I love you for that. So any favorite charity organizations that you'd like to give you time and or money to?
Yeah, Dan and I actually contribute for years to Travis Manion Foundation. Okay. And we also, I started running with the team RWB, Red, White, and Blue team, when I was in Houston. And so I love that organization. And then personally, as a business owner, I contribute to a new organization and sponsor of them. It's Treasured Vessels Foundation, which helps provide transitional housing to women in the North Dallas area or the North Texas area who have been rescued from sex trafficking.
Good for you. Thank you for doing that. So last question, you can elaborate a little bit, but what's your favorite decade of music? 60s, 70s?
Oh my gosh, 90s? The 80s, please. Oh my gosh. And I was a country girl, but who didn't? Oh yes, I'm a country girl, but who doesn't love Michael and Madonna?
I know.
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny you say that, because the 80s was full of kind of one name people where you could say it. Michael, Madonna, Prince, David.
Prince.
You know what I'm saying? They were like Van Halen. It was like names. Like, these were actually the names of the performers, Elton. I mean, which he was more kind of 70s too, but still, you say those names, the 80s brought that. Even if you're into rap, like Run DMC, it was like, it was
the beginning of rap.
It was such a transitional time. You had the British invasion,
underground
and all that stuff. So yeah, you're right. I mean,
you can dance. Anybody who can't dance can dance to 80s music.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. I love you even more. I love you anymore. So how can we find you, Julie?
Wellwithgod.com or jvanorden.com.
I love it. And squad, I am going to first one to comment or make a comment on my LinkedIn post, Instagram post, Twitter post. You can find all her links here in the show notes. We'll get a free copy signed by me. What I'll do is I'll order it. Julie will sign it. And if she'll take care of the postage, that'd be fantastic. If not, I can Venmo you the money for the postage. But I'd love to get that out to you. Julie.
And I'll throw in the journal that goes with it.
Yay!
Yay!
Awesome.
It's good. Yeah.
Julie, leave us with one last knowledge nugget that we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
All right. You ready? Without God infused in your well-being, Physical is just a body. Financial is just money. Mental is just thoughts. Environmental is just space. Occupational is just a job. Intellectual is just a hobby, and social is just friends. Without God, he's what moves it from wellness, a thing, to the essence of who you are, which is your well-being.
Wow. So wellness to
well-being.
Love it. Love it. And squad, you just had a free masterclass with my really good friend, Julie Van Orden, who's going to remind you to lead from among and also have the ability to anticipate. And anticipate means kind of shut up and listen and then formulate the response instead of reacting. If you're stuck, you want to move your head from your head to your heart, Julie is the person that I'd love to introduce you to. She's going to tell you to find your inner best self. And that is another introduction that I can make to Julie because she can help you do that. And she's going to remind you, if you're stuck, it gets better. Valleys are in the valleys are your greatest successes. So like I always say, enjoy the journey no matter where you're at. Call on God to help you, give you that nudge to kind of push you through, and she wants you to feel inspired and impart wisdom to yourself by getting with God, reading what you really want to read every day that's going to help you level up, and also journal, which is very big with Julie as well. And you know what? Without God infused, in all the physical, occupation, mental, intellectual, financial, environmental, and social, you really can't be well-being. You need to infuse God in all 7 of those pillars to do that. And Julie does it. Julie's beautiful. She's humble. She's healthy. She's wealthy. I'm so glad that you came on. I'm so privileged you came on. You are amazing. Thank you so, so much for coming on. Let's collaborate in the future.
Yes, it was my privilege. Anytime.
Thanks, Julie. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.